The MR2 has now been with us for 35 years. Now my tastes in cars are more British and Leyland, so I missed the boat in getting one of them cheap when I could. You could get a Mark II MR2 of course, but that evolved into more of a Grand Tourer. But there's one edition of the MR2 that people tend to forget, the Mark III. It was quite a departure from the Mark I and Mark II in that it was more of a focused roadster and for the first time was completely open topped. It was also a lot lighter than the Mark II that went before it and even lighter than the Mark I model. They kept it simple. One engine, a few different specs, and that was about it. It's not the full-fat 190 horsepower version you find in the Corolla T-Sport, but it's still got 138 horsepower, and that's enough to move the MR2 from 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds, which is all you really need in a car as small and as light as this. It's a pretty reliable engine, but there are a few issues, chief among which is the pre-caps in the exhaust. These can crumble, debris can get ingested back into the engine, which scores the bores and makes it smoke like a chimney. Ask us how we know. So why should you buy one? Well, the MX-5 is the default choice of course, but the MR2's mid-engined and as such has a pretty much perfect weight balance. You can really throw it around on country lanes, and around town it's just so easy to drive. It's so light, the steering's light. I borrowed this one last night and I didn't want to go home. It's just really user-friendly. Best of all, they're pretty cheap. You can find one of these for 3 figures for a pre-facelift car, and even the best cars aren't going to be much more than 3 or 4 grand. But there's a bit of an elephant in the room with the MR2, and that's practicality. There is no space for anything. I could not fit my wallet in this door pocket, and I'm not a rich man. Behind the front seats there are a couple of cubby holes, which were designed for golf clubs, so you can probably squeeze the odd little bag or 2 in there, and under the bonnet there's a little bit by the spare wheel which might just be able to squeeze a tin of biscuits or something. But if you want a suitcase, you can forget it. Unless you don't take a passenger, of course. But let's be honest, if you're buying a sports car, you're buying it for fun. You're buying it to tear it around the twisty bits and have some fun. And for that, the MR2 is great. For the sort of price you're paying, I think you'd struggle to find anything that's as enjoyable. I'd liken it to a cheap version of a Porsche Boxster without the bills. And you can certainly just have as much enjoyment tearing this around as you would in the Porsche, albeit a little bit slower. Okay, it's not nearly as fast or as glamorous, and you can't slap your keys down on the bar with Porsche written on them. But for the price you're paying, they're an absolute bargain and they can't stay overlooked forever. I want one.